Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gaming Gang October Spooktacular 2023. The witching hour has struck in the Chicago area for October 25th, and I'm your host, Jeff McAleer. Be sure to join me every night this month at the stroke of midnight Chicago time as I bring you yet another classic episode of CBS Radio Mystery Theater. Many of these episodes are destined to put a chill down your spine. Now, before we get into tonight's episode of the Spooktacular, do want to wish my mom a very happy birthday. Yes, if you were watching last night's show, you know yesterday was my birthday. Today is my mom's birthday, and as I've joked around for years, I'm the worst birthday present my mom ever got, and she couldn't return me. Anyway, tonight we've got another science fiction tale by way of CBS Radio Mystery Theater. And as the series moved on throughout the years, we did find more and more science fiction stories. Now, that doesn't mean they were any good. Thankfully, this one is. Because on tonight's Spooktacular entry, in the future, mankind wars with the machines. And we'll hear the tale of human prisoners of war being held on Asteroid Prison One. And it stars John Lithgow. Yes, that John Lithgow. So turn out the lights and give a listen to Prisoner of the Machines as it aired on, you guessed it, Newsradio 78 WBBM Chicago on January 16th, 1980.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall, waiting to fill your ears with the sounds of tomorrow. Some pessimists believe those sounds will be the blast of bombs and the roar of guns, the groans of suffering and the rattling chains of servitude. Personally, I take a happier view of the future. But in the story you're about to hear, those bombs have burst, those guns have roared, and the people have groaned. But this particular war of the future is over. And for Major John Gulliver of D Company Rocket Battalion, it is the beginning of a very strange sort of servitude.
Major, if we give ourselves up, what's going to happen?
We'll be interned, Private. We'll sit out this war in a prison camp.
I'm afraid, Major. I can't help it. I'm afraid of them, the Macs. There's something horrible about them.
You think a refrigerator is horrible? A washing machine? That's all they are, just machines.
Yeah, that's what scares me. I mean, the idea of a refrigerator or a washing machine with the power of life and death.
Our mystery story, Prisoner of the Machines, was written especially for Mystery Theater by Henry Slessor and stars John Lithgow. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
This week on Knots Landing, Laura Avery feels unwanted.
Richard's changed. He doesn't need me the way he used to.
And she meets the wrong stranger.
I've been waiting for you to come back here for a week.
You have?
What's your hurry?
I'd like to leave.
We're not finished yet. I don't want to talk.
Look at me,
It's my wife. She's been raped.
Knots Landing, Thursday night at 10, 9 Central on CBS Television.
Introduce yourself to a remarkable nasal spray that lasts and lasts up to 12 continuous hours. Duration nasal spray relieves up to 12 continuous hours. Duration relieves nasal stuffiness and sinus congestion. So just one use lets you work all day. Just one use lets you sleep all night. Duration relieves 12 continuous hours. And that's Duration, with the longest lasting nasal decongestant. Use only as directed when needed.
I'm Henry Block. We've all heard a lot of talk about inflation. Well, Block is doing something about it. This year, we'll prepare your 1040A short form at the low price of $7.50. That's right, only $7.50. However, there is an extra charge for any state or local return. This year, have H&R Block do your short form. Let's fight inflation together.
H&R Block in most major Sears stores and other convenient locations.
Now, here's a bright idea. Listen to this. If you know any Northsider who has money at a downtown bank or savings and loan, you can collect a finder's fee just for bringing their certificate of deposit to Bank of Ravenswood. That's right. You can get $300, $500, even $1,000 from Bank of Ravenswood just for bringing in your friend. For more details, check Bank of Ravenswood's ads in the Tribune and Sun-Times, or call the bank to learn more about the finder's fee from Bank of Ravenswood.
Look up. There's a new object in the heavens, a new satellite in orbit. No, there's nothing unusual about that. Man has been hurtling strange metal debris into the skies for 100 years now, in this year of our Lord, 2085. But look again. Put your highest-powered telescope on the object, because you've never seen one like it before. It appears to be a soap bubble, an iridescent, transparent globe. But there's something inside it. A human being. Because this, my friends, is the first experimental model of an orbital solitary station for prisoner correction, punishment, and isolation. The man inside this orbiting prison is Major John Gulliver. And Major Gulliver has nothing else to do but think.
I don't know when I stopped counting the orbits. All I can do is lie against the smooth dome of my bubble prison and drift with the cosmos. My food and water tubes float about my head like friendly, mocking snakes. Some while back, I had decided to refuse their blandishments, to let hunger shrivel my stomach and thirst blacken my tongue, to cheat my jailers by dying in their death-proof cell. But the snakes had floated and coiled and mocked at my noble intentions, knowing that sooner or later I would clutch them fiercely in a loving embrace. I would eat and drink until I was sated and sick with self-disgust, and fall back panting against my prison wall, and sleep like the miserable, unloved infant I had become. No, I couldn't die. They wouldn't let me. It was against the code of my jailers, a law more inflexible than any written for humanity since the days of Moses. But of course, my jailers weren't human. I thought back to my first glimpse of them.
Major, if we give ourselves up, what's going to happen?
We'll be interned, Private. We'll sit out the war in a prison camp.
I'm afraid, Major. I can't help it. I'm afraid of them, the Macs. There's something horrible about them.
It's all in the way you look at it. You think a refrigerator is horrible? A washing machine? Because that's all they are. Machines.
Yeah, that's what scares me. The idea of a refrigerator or a washing machine with the power of life or death.
But we were taken prisoner anyway. Every last survivor of Company D Rocket Battalion. And the Macs, with characteristic efficiency, integrated our forlorn and splintered unit into a larger body of prisoners heading north. There were 18 of us assigned to the transport D-85, including the 2 Mac guards. And for a while, a rumor persisted that we were heading for the moon base itself. It wasn't true, of course. Our destination was the uncharted asteroid they called Prison One. But the rumor excited us, because it would have been the first time any of us had come face to face with the enemy on the moon. Since our outfit had been organized, we had fought nothing but Macs, and never even seen a rebel. Sometimes it was hard to believe they existed at all, even if the War Department bulletins still talked about rebel ships and rebel losses. But it had been a long time since we had heard official word about anything.
Major, can I talk to you?
Well, of course, Morley. You don't have to whisper. The Macs can't hear us from here.
Oh, I don't know about that. For all we know, they got superhuman hearing.
What's the difference? You're not plotting to take over the ship, are you?
Well, I tell you, Major, a couple of the guys were wondering, see. Henderson there, he's got a pilot's license.
Oh, for what? A space buggy? You think you could pilot a transport this size? If we could get it away from our two friends up in the control room.
Yeah, but that's it. There are only two of them.
For sure, and either one of those Macs could blast us all into talcum powder in 1 second flat.
You know something, Major? I've never seen a Mac so close before. Look exactly alike, don't they?
And they all look alike. They all came from the same cookie cutter.
You know what Corporal Clyburn calls them? Laurel and Hardy.
Funny man, the corporal.
Still, the things I hear, Major... Is it true that they eat human flesh?
They're nothing but mechanical weapons, like tanks or artillery.
But they think, Major. They figure things out. I hear they're smarter than we are.
Then how come the rebels had to retreat to the moon base? We're beating them, Private. We're beating them good. That's why the Macs are taking prisoners now. The rebels are adhering to the old Geneva Convention rules, paving the way for leniency in case they get licked. And they will be, soon.
Hey, thanks, Major. You make me feel better.
I'm glad I made him feel better, but I didn't. Because no matter what happened in the war on Earth and the moon, we were heading for an asteroid, to a prison camp we knew nothing about, run by android machines. I tried to remember when I first saw a Mac. I'd never even heard of them until the night the Army transport Hornet had been blown up during blastoff from the moon's Tycho Brahe station. The charge of sabotage and the subsequent confession by Pakura, the mad fanatic, was branded by the Independent Party of Indonesia as a frame-up, an excuse to outlaw them. For the first time since the world had finally united under one system of law, there was talk of war. Nobody was really alarmed. The Indonesians were famous for their robot industry, but they were all made for domestic purposes. They looked human, and they were gentle, useful machines designed to do the dirty jobs humans no longer wanted to do. But suddenly there was a different breed of android coming out of Indonesian factories. The Macs. Mechanical brutes, impervious to cold, hunger, fatigue, despair, and homesickness. We saw headless Macs charging our lines blindly. Armless Macs, unable to hold weapons, lumbering along obedient to their programmed destiny. There were officer Macs with minds trained in the arts of battle, commanding their battalions with cold logic that made no allowances for human weakness. There were engineer Macs, programmed to repair damage to their mechanisms. And now, it seemed, there were prison camp Macs. And we were their first prisoners.
Seatbelts, please. We will make landfall on prison Asteroid One in 10 minutes. Seatbelts, please.
Prison Asteroid One might have been a prison compound in any country, in any war. The muddy grounds were filled with prisoners and their non-human guards. There were to be 1,400 of us on that grim rock, where no walls or fences were needed to contain us all. The camp looked like a model of military penal institutions, with 26 neatly spaced barracks, a processing station, a mess hall, and administration buildings. There was a great complex that housed the oxygen-producing machinery, the hydroponic food factory, machine shops, spaceships' hangars. An intricate system of scanners covered every inch of the place, sending information back to the computer called SCAMP. SCAMP. Scanning, control, and movement of prisoners.
Machines? Lousy bunch of bolts? Maybe they can fight, but they can't outthink us. Can they, Major?
Well, maybe not. But we're the prisoners, Private.
Yeah, but not for long. Not for me, anyway.
Attention! All prisoners will file by counter A. take one PSC and strap it about his wrist. Repeat, prisoners will take one PSC from counter and strap about wrist. Prisoners failing to wear their PSC at all times will be turned off.
Turned off? Do they mean killed, Major?
I guess that's what they mean. So you wear that thing, Private.
Yeah, but what is a PSC?
Personal speaker command, so the Macs can deliver their commands to us individually or collectively.
Prisoners will remove clothing and place in disposal bin. Prisoners will then pass through disinfection room and receive clothing ration. Any prisoner causing unnecessary delay will be turned off. It was in the clothing room that I had my first disillusion about Mac efficiency. The prison uniform, consisting of fatigues, socks, thick leather shoes, a cap, and a field jacket, came in only one size. Wrong. When we emerged from the processing area, we filed past a Mac who was handing out barrack assignments from a clipboard list. The system was simple. I was sent to Barrack G, along with Galwest, Grady, Gunderson, Gruber, and every other prisoner whose name began with G. The system, however, had a flaw which never occurred to the mechanical brains of the Macs. Barracks G had accommodations for some 150 prisoners, but there were less than 60 of us whose names began with G. Barracks S, on the other hand, was overflowing with prisoners, some 400 of them, milling about the bunks and wondering what to do. The situation was so ludicrous that I felt like laughing. But I was sobered up when I met Sergeant Zilkowski, and the pudgy little man grabbed my arm and babbled.
They're putting me by myself, Major. They're sticking me in a barracks all by myself.
Take it easy, Zilkowski. It's just temporary. They'll straighten it all out.
But they won't. You know the Macs, Major. Once they get an idea in their heads, once they've been programmed, they don't change.
Well, they'll have to. When they see what's happening,
I'll be all alone. Just because my name begins with Z. I won't have anybody to talk to. You gotta help me, Major. You gotta do something.
So I tried to do something about it. I stuck my neck out, and that was the beginning of it. And here I am, floating in space, in the loneliest prison cell in history. And the worst part of the whole thing is that it was all my idea.
A prisoner in orbit. That definitely comes under the heading of cruel and unusual punishment. But what can you expect from a machine? Anyone who's ever lost money in a vending machine or stalled their car on a freeway knows that machines can be tricky and temperamental and turn against you at any minute. But how will Major John Gulliver and the prisoners of the asteroid deal with their machinery problems? We'll find out when I return shortly with Act 2.
I like pepperoni, but it doesn't like me.
You better fast with Digel.
With the ingredients in Digel, relief from acid indigestion and gas starts in less than a minute.
I like corned beef. I like cabbage. I like franks. I like beef. I like spaghetti. And meatballs. But they don't like me.
If you like something that doesn't like you,
you better fast with Digel.
Digel relief starts in less than a minute. For occasional use only as directed.
They said it couldn't be written. The book that hit America like a runaway locomotive. It's the new catalog from the Consumer Information Center of the U.S. government, with more than 200 fact-filled federal publications listed inside. More than half free. Topics from health to home and car repair. For your free catalog, write free catalog, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009. That's free catalog, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009.
The mysterious sounds you are hearing are the extraordinary talents of Stephen Wade in banjo dancing. But seeing is believing. And from the White House to Lincoln Avenue, from the Reader to Time Magazine, Stephen Wade's banjo dancing has received unanimous acclaim. Time Magazine calls him a wondrous artist, and the Tribune calls him brilliant, dazzling, and mesmerizing. See banjo dancing now through February 24th at the Apollo Theater Center, 2540 North Lincoln. Phone 935-6100 for your reservations. There's a special dinner theater package available, and plenty of parking, too. So don't miss this seasonal treat for the whole family now at the Apollo Theater Center. Call 935-6100 and mention Mystery Theater to receive a special discount. Stephen Wade in banjo dancing. There's no mystery about it. Seeing is believing.
Major John Gulliver, prisoner of war, circles the asteroid in his strange bubble prison and thinks back to the moment when he first came into conflict with his captors, the machine men known as the Macs. Major Gulliver wasn't the highest-ranking officer in the prison compound, but he must have been the most nervous officer among them when he was finally given audience with an android who wore silver bars on his artificial shoulders.
Major Gulliver, my name is Captain 174-B. I am Adjutant to General 6 Commanding Officer of Prison One. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Our CO has asked me to discuss an assignment with you, Major.
Wait a moment, Captain. I came here to discuss a problem.
Yes, Major, we received your request through proper channels. But as a result of studying your records, we discovered something about your past, which is of particular interest to General 6.
What do you mean?
The profession in which you were engaged before the war. You were a psychologist, correct?
Yes, I was college-trained, University of Mental Sciences, then computer instructor at the Hayward Teaching Center.
Frankly, we believe you may be useful in helping us make an adjustment to our responsibility. This is our first prison camp, you know, and we are anxious to conduct it along satisfactory lines.
Don't you have any Indasian advisors?
No. The camp is entirely in the hands of the android auxiliary.
And what do you want me to do?
Why, help us to understand our prisoners, to run an effective, trouble-free institution.
Fine. If you want my advice, let's start with your crazy alphabet system.
No, Major. We do not wish your advice. We are satisfactorily programmed. We merely wish your help in interpreting prisoner behavior to us when it does not track properly with previous data. You understand?
If you're asking me to be a spy...
Nothing like that. We will plant spies, of course. That is in the manual. All we ask of you is to be our official prison psychologist.
Captain!
What is it, Private? I gave instructions.
A guard has been attacked by a prisoner. The man was subdued and awaits your orders.
Turn him off.
Now, wait a minute, Captain.
You wish to say something, Major?
Yes, I thought your camp was programmed under the rules of the Geneva Convention.
What is your point, Major?
Well, the man has to have a fair hearing, a trial. You don't even know the circumstances.
Very well, Major. Bring in the prisoner.
Yes, sir. In here.
Claiborne.
What the devil are you doing here, Major?
Oh, what did you do, Corporal?
Oh, I jumped one of those lousy machines, that's what I did. He stuck his gun into my back and I jumped him. I wasn't moving fast enough for him.
You admit to this assault?
Sure, I admit it.
You're really a fool, Corporal.
Major, is that sufficient hearing for you? Private, you will take this prisoner outside and turn him off.
Wait, you can't just kill him? Not if you don't want a riot on your hands?
Kill him? Who said we wished him killed? Major, we do not kill prisoners. That is unthinkable. The manual strictly forbids us to kill humans in prison camp. But still, we must punish uncooperative prisoners. That is our order, too. You must tell us how to solve this contradiction, Major.
Well, there's no contradiction. If you want to punish a prisoner, do what is done in human prisons. Put us in solitary confinement for a term. Deny us the company of our fellow prisoners. Believe me, that's punishment enough, Captain. Ask Sergeant Zolkowski.
Very well. What you say seems logical. I will put the question to our commanding officer, General Six. You are dismissed, Major.
I went back to my barracks and told everyone whose name began with G, the good news. The Macs had been programmed not to kill their human prisoners, except in self-defense or during escape attempts. I told them about my suggestion of solitary confinement as a punishment, that it seemed like the easiest sort of penalty. Captain 174-B sold the idea to his commanding officer, but it wasn't the solitary I had in mind.
Gentlemen, your attention, please. Colonel Drummond, Major Gulliver, you and your fellow officers have been asked here to witness the first experimental model of Prison One's orbital solitary station for prisoner correction, punishment, and isolation. Your comments, please.
You mean that bubble is an orbital satellite?
That is correct. Surely you don't intend to send our men into orbit. It's sheer cruelty.
Captain, you told me that you were proscribed against taking human life. Surely you must know that no one could live in a thing like that.
Incorrect. Prisoners will be supplied with oxygen, food, water, and waste disposal facilities in solitary orbit for the duration of their sentence. Your comments, please.
How long do you think a man can survive in one of these things?
We have consulted our commander, and our information is that a human can survive 2,800 asteroidal orbits with the oxygen, food, and water supply provided.
2,800 orbits? That's almost 3 months.
Your commanding officer is wrong. He is not allowed for the mental and emotional strain of such imprisonment.
There is nothing in the manual concerning mental or emotional strain. You are a psychologist, Major. Such things are a matter of individual human response, are they not? Your comments, please.
I say you can't do this. A man would be better off dead than in one of these things.
Impossible. We cannot allow prisoners to die.
Captain, I am the highest-ranking officer in this camp. I demand a personal talk with your superior.
Impossible. The commander has no communications mechanism with humans. Such an interface would have been superfluous.
What?
General Six is a computer, Colonel. Don't you understand?
Oh, good Lord.
That is correct. General Six is a computer, and he does not interfere with humans. The sentence will now be carried out. Prisoner 110, Corporal R. Cliburn, will be launched into orbit at 0900. Colonel, you will order all your men to fall out and observe punishment.
Major, it's not really true, is it? They're not really going to do it.
One thing about the Macs, Private. They tell no lies.
I've heard talk around. I mean, some of the guys are saying that it was your fault. They say you were soft on the Macs, that you suggested the bubble.
What do you think, Private?
Gee, I don't know. It's just that... Well, Major, you just accept them too damn easy.
But we've got to accept machines. We accept them all our lives, don't we? Don't you trust the mechanism of your car, your air sled, your house power plant? You can't get angry at levers, gears, integrated circuits.
Who can't? I can do it, Major. I can do it easy. So, why can't you?
For 11 weeks, we watched the bubble spin over our heads. A tiny gleaming new star containing Corporal Ronald Cliburn, or what was left of him. Then, weary of its monotonous journey, the bubble returned, braked by its single retro rocket. It landed undamaged, and they brought Cliburn back to Prison One, singing. Singing at the top of his lungs. He didn't stop singing until he died, 2 weeks later, in an accidental fall in the hospital ward. I'll say one thing for the Macs. Their own psychology wasn't bad. There was no more trouble on Prison Asteroid One, but there was something else. Talk about escape.
Oh, come in, Major. Sit down.
You're the only man on this rock who seems to understand that the Macs are only the tools of the rebels. That we're wrong to direct our aggression against them. There's only one sensible course now. We've got to play it cool. Keep out of trouble. Wait till the war is over.
Although, of course, we are duty-bound to escape if we can.
Escape? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Escape from an asteroid, heaven knows where in the universe. Even if a prisoner got past Scamp, there's no place to go. No, Major. There's no use bothering about escape talk.
But the men are bothering.
What?
It's true. That's all they're talking about. Didn't you know?
No, I didn't. But it has to stop. We have to issue an order.
You can't order them to stop talking.
I'm commanding officer, Major. That's what I intend to do.
And that's what he did. Colonel Drummond lined up the men, 8 ranks deep, and read them the riot act. He outlined the futility of escape talk, the impossibility of a return to Earth before the end of the war. When he dismissed them, he had a separate talk with the officers, emphasizing that it was our duty to report any escape plan to him.
Remember, the Macs are prescribed against killing prisoners. But they're also programmed to prevent escapes. They won't have any compunction against killing if it occurs during an escape attempt.
But 3 weeks later came the J escape. It was called the J escape for obvious reasons. Only the occupants of J barracks were involved, led by Lieutenant Lamar Jackson. One evening, an hour before lockup, Jackson had noticed that a scanner beam on the north side of the compound, near the hangars where the spaceships were kept, failed to follow him as he crossed its path. Then Jorgensen, a computer engineer, slipped out one night and examined the defective scanner. It was then that he realized they could abort the SCAMP system for a period of at least 2 hours. Jackson organized the actual escape. His idea was simple: to get his men to the hangars and spaceships and hold the ships as ransom for their release. If the Macs failed to agree, the ships would be destroyed. It was a desperate gamble, of course, and the first part of their plan worked. The Macs had no provision in their manual for an inoperative scamp. It was supposed to work, period. General Six probably blew a dozen fuses that night as the prisoners of J Barracks smashed their way into the spaceship hangars like a gang of hoodlums crashing a party. But the party was over in one terrible instant, because when they entered the hangars, there were no spaceships. Every transport had been dismantled. The hangars were empty. With the camp filled to capacity, the machine minds of the Macs assumed they had no further need for space vehicles. And now we knew why Prison One was truly escape-proof. Because our guards were prisoners, too.
Obviously, there is no escape from prison Asteroid One. Not even the infamous Devil's Island could boast the security of this prison camp. But never underestimate the ingenuity of desperate men or the perversity of machines. We'll learn more about both when we return shortly with Act 3.
Maybe we're all too emotional when we think about special education for handicapped children. We always think of human values, not dollar values. Maybe it's time we took a cold, hard look at these kids and what it costs to develop their potential. Okay, the truth. Special education and vocational training cost a lot of money. Special teachers, special equipment, special classes. It all adds up. But here's the catch. It costs even more not to educate handicapped people. Much more. Keeping people dependent for life, or keeping them in institutions. Those are luxuries we can't afford. So don't be emotional. Look at it coldly, in dollars and cents. With special education, most handicapped children grow up to become taxpayers. It's a good investment.
A public service message on behalf of the United States Office of Education.
This is WBBM Chicago. If you're driving a van, truck, pickup, or perhaps a small import car, there's no need to drive all over Chicago to find the new tires you need. You'll find them in stock at any of the 10 giant Cassidy tire locations all over Chicagoland. And at prices so low that Cassidy's everyday low prices are like other dealers' sale days. For example, you can buy steel-belted radial white walls with 2 steel belts, size 175/80 by 13, for only $37.95. And regardless of low price, you always get free mounting and fast, friendly service at any of the 10 Cassidy Tire winter driving centers. As Illinois' largest Uniroyal distributor, Cassidy Tire has in stock tremendous inventories of regular and snow tires of all sizes and styles, including the famous Uniroyal Steelers. They also feature a full line of batteries, shock absorbers, and complete wheel alignment service. MasterCharge and Visa cards are welcome at Cassidy Tire. Call 226-4395 for the Cassidy Tire Winter Driving Center near you. That's Cassidy Tire.
Men died in the escape from Barracks J. 14 prisoners named Johnson, Jacobs, Jorgensen, James, and so forth. But 4 men were taken alive by the android guards and faced the punishment of the bubble. The terrible 3-month isolation in space, which no one had yet survived with their minds all in one piece. But one of them, Lieutenant Lamar Jackson, did survive his 3-month imprisonment. And his first visitor in the prison hospital was Major John Gulliver.
Can you talk about it, Lieutenant? Can you tell me how it was out there?
It was dark, Major. Dark and full of nightmares.
But you made it. You're a tough guy, Lieutenant. The whole camp's proud of you.
You got to be very still. You can't move around in that thing. Every little move spins you around, changes the axis. You get disoriented every few seconds. And then you start getting ideas that you're not alone. That something is outside the bubble, trying to get in.
It's okay, Lieutenant. You don't have to tell me anymore.
But then you get the worst nightmare that the thing that was outside is now inside. That it's touching you. That's when it really gets bad.
I understand.
You tell the boys to stay out of trouble, Major. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of the bubble.
The lieutenant was crying, and his tears made me determined to keep anyone else out of that damned bubble. But the escape talk went on. One afternoon, a committee of 3 men came to see me. 2 shave-tail lieutenants and a captain.
We're crashing out, Major.
You're doing what?
We figure the only way to do it is en masse. The whole camp. Now, we need a leader, and we think you're it. That is, if you change your mind about being reasonable with these beauties. Well, have you?
You're a fool, Captain.
Maybe so. And I don't think much of you either, sir. But you have got something we need. You've got the ear of the Max.
Tell me how you plan to escape from an asteroid without ships.
We don't plan to. Now, our idea is to overcome the Max and take control of the entire prison. Now, once we have the facilities, we think we can build a radio transmitter powerful enough to beam a message to Earth and request aid.
I see. And just how do you plan to overcome the Max?
We fight.
Well,
we outnumber them, don't we? We attack a group of them, take away as many weapons as we can, and attack the rest. Some of us live, some of us die. If enough of us survive, we get off of this rock.
You wouldn't have a chance.
What we need is organization, a strategy, a battle plan. We need somebody to pull this whole thing together. This is a job offer, Major.
Captain, don't you realize the odds are 1,000 to 1? Why do it? Why can't you sit it out? The war's almost over. Why get killed now?
We think the war is over, Major.
What?
Wilcox here is a radio man. Now, a couple of months ago, we asked the Max permission to build a receiving station. They agreed. under one condition. That we receive only broadcasts from the moon and the vicinity.
From the rebels.
Well, we didn't get much. A few faint signals from space traffic and the propaganda broadcasts. Now, they had some pretty good music sometimes, but then the music stopped. Everything stopped.
Well, maybe your set went on the blink.
No. It was fine. They're just not sending signals from the moon anymore, Major, and I think it's because the war is over.
Captain, can you make that receiving station more powerful?
Sure. We had the parts.
Maybe I can get the parts. I got the parts without much trouble. The Max had no objections about receiving stations, only transmitters. I made promises about prisoner cooperation and got the material that helped us build a receiver with 3 times the capacity of the original. But we heard nothing from the moon base. Nothing at all. And then...
It's Morse, Major. It's good old Morse language. It's got to be from an Earth vehicle.
Well, coming from where?
The vicinity of the moon. It has to be. Wait a minute. I can make out a little... There's something about a delivery, provision. Major, that isn't a military vehicle. It's a commercial vessel. They're delivering provisions to the moon base.
Good Lord. An Earth ship heading for the moon.
Then it's true. They have given up. The war is over.
Colonel, it's the truth. The war is over. It's been over for months. And yet we're still prisoners of the Max.
How do you know this?
We picked up radio talk from Earth. The moon base doesn't exist anymore. Neither does the invasion army. They're all gone. Wiped out to the last man.
All right. Let's say that's true. In due course, the Max will disband Prison One and return our men to Earth.
Really? Who'll give them orders, Colonel? Don't you understand? Their masters are gone. The Max won't do it on their own. They're programmed to run a prison camp, period. They'll never let us go.
I don't believe that, Major.
But the men believe it. That's more important. That's why they're planning a massive uprising.
They can't do that. It's suicidal.
That's what it amounts to, yes.
Well, we can't let that happen, Major. It's our responsibility to keep these men alive.
Fine. Only how do we stop it?
There's only one way. We can tell the Max.
Are you crazy? They'll have the ringleaders in those bubbles before the day is out.
It's not too high a price. I'm going to them right now.
Colonel, wait.
Don't try to stop me, Major.
Colonel, something just struck me. The way you've been taking all this. The way you've been taking all your responsibilities. You don't look one bit different. No gray hairs, no lines on your face. Nothing.
Let go of my arm, Major.
What's in this arm, Colonel? Bones and muscles and blood? Or steel rods and wires and lubricating oil? Go! Help! Help! Somebody!
Good morning, Major. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, considering your guards took half my head off.
Your head is all in one piece, Major. You may take my word for it. The worst damage was self-inflicted when you tried to strike Colonel Drummond.
You mean Android Drummond, don't you?
How did you discover the secret? It was our belief that the Colonel was a fine humanoid specimen, indetectable from the real thing.
He looked human, all right. He just didn't act human. Well, what time does the balloon go up?
I beg your pardon?
I expect my bubble is waiting for me.
There will be no punishment, Major Gulliver. In destroying our secret agent, you merely acted in the interest of your men. Incidentally, you are now the highest-ranking officer among the prisoners.
The war is over, Captain. I've told you that 1,000 times.
We still have no such information. We cannot release the prisoners without a direct order.
But you can't get any orders from the moon base. They're all gone.
Commanding Officer General 6 will receive the instructions. Until then, we go on as we have.
I want to see him. I want to see your commanding officer.
General Six does not interface with humans.
I'm not just a human. I'm the highest-ranking officer, remember? I insist, Captain, and if I'm denied, you won't get any more cooperation from me. You can send me up in the bubble for the rest of my life.
Very well, Major. I will arrange for you to see General Six.
I was brought into the majestic presence of General Six by a brace of Mac soldiers and Captain 174B. I had never seen a Mac computer before, and it was an awesome sight. General Six required a housing of several thousand square feet, and it towered to a height of 16 feet. The room it occupied was eerily lit by its own diodes. That was the only illumination, since the Macs, requiring no light sensors for vision, didn't use artificial lighting. Captain 174B himself stood at the console control board, his fingers poised lightly over the keyboard.
Very well, Major. You may ask your question of the commander.
Ask it. Ask him if he has any means of contacting Invasion Supreme Headquarters.
The answer is yes.
Ask him if he can make such contact now.
The answer is no.
Ask him if he knows why this contact is no longer possible.
The answer is yes. Contact is no longer possible because of destruction of moon base and annihilation of all Indasian forces, bringing an end to hostilities.
You see, it's true. Now, ask General Six if he will issue orders for the immediate release and transportation to Earth of his prisoners.
The answer is... Prison One will be maintained until orders to the contrary are received directly from Supreme Headquarters, according to Section 5 of the manual.
But that's insane. The war's over. Finished. There is no Supreme Headquarters.
The audience is over, Major.
Didn't you hear his reply? The war is over. Your masters are dead. You don't have any reason to keep us
We
here.
must wait for instructions from Headquarters, Major. Please obey my order and leave. Failure to comply will place you in jeopardy of punishment.
You can't keep us here for the rest of our lives.
Take him.
No.
Look out. Don't let him grab that rifle.
Stand back.
Major, don't be foolish. You can't kill us all.
I won't kill you all, Captain. Just your commanding officer. And so, I was condemned to my dark little prison, where I flirted with the cosmos for 3 long months. And when I came down, I was insane. I must have been insane. Because when the bubble landed, I saw the Macs standing about like so many statues, and their human prisoners roaming about free and unfettered and exhilarated. I saw faces smiling at me, laughing. I hadn't heard the sound of laughter in years. There could only be one explanation. I was mad.
No, Major, no. You're okay. We're all okay.
But what happened?
It was only a week after the launch, you see. The Macs were going nuts trying to repair the damage to their mechanical commanding officer. They didn't know how. They got so desperate they called in some of our guys, see, computer engineers, just to help them. Well, our guys went to work, all right. They rigged General Six to give one order, the only one that mattered.
Turned off. They were told to turn themselves off.
That's it, Major. We turned them off. We pulled out the plug of the machines. And now Wilcox is rigging up a transmitting station big enough to contact Earth. Hey, we're going home.
We did go home. I got married and had 3 children, and no robot servants. Not for a while, anyway. Eventually, my wife convinced me I was being foolish, and we purchased 2 domestic robots. One a superb cook and children's nurse. The other a hard-working general housekeeper. I named them Laurel and Hardy. And someday, I might even stop being afraid of them.
And so Major John Gulliver and his men are back on Earth, back where it all began. Will machines one day destroy us? Of course not. We can handle them. Or can we? I'll be back shortly.
Introduce yourself to a remarkable nasal spray that lasts and lasts up to 12 continuous hours. Duration nasal spray relieves up to 12 continuous hours. Duration relieves nasal stuffiness and sinus congestion. So just one use lets you work all day. Just one use lets you sleep all night. Duration relieves 12 continuous hours. And that's Duration, with the longest lasting nasal decongestant. Use only as directed when needed.
Look, when you came to work for us...
Nobody ever mentioned this ad agency had a dungeon.
In you go.
All I did was forget to recommend radio as a primary ad buy.
Ooh, that's how Oxy 5 became the biggest selling acne product in America.
Yes,
and Hillman Cohen built the country's largest retail eyeglass chain using radio.
I forgot.
Look, if I let you go, I gotta let Gribble go.
What did he...
Ever hear the phrase new and improved?
Thousands of times.
Gribble wrote it.
Oh, no.
Radio, it's red hot. Call this station or the Radio Advertising Bureau. They brought you this message.
Some wise man once said, one machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, but no machine can do the work of one extraordinary man. We think that's going to be true in the future as it has been in the past. The question is, what will the machines think now that we've given them brains? We may well be entering the age when man's own inventions will be in conflict with man himself. Our cast included John Lithgow, Ian Martin, Earl Hammond, and Ray Owens. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Well, I know you've been out a lot because I've been trying to get you.
House to house, no other way. Police detection is 99% legwork.
Now, why doesn't he come forward? Hit and run, hit and hide. If I ever locate who ran my father down in cold blood, I don't know what I'd do.
Maybe someone will come forward.
Maybe, maybe not. How can I help?
I guess by being a comfort to your mother.
I mean more than that.
I don't rightly know, son. But if you want to regard our police outfit as yours, we're all of us anxious to get to the bottom of this.
I want to know everything, every step of the way. You see, Chief Rufus, I can't accept this death of my father as an accident. To me, it was murder.
This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Honestly, I think we just listened to the best science fiction story that CBS Radio Mystery Theater ever produced. Pretty solid story, all in all. Plus, I think it's a pretty great performance by John Lithgow. Thanks for catching tonight's episode of the Gaming Gang October Spooktacular 2023. Please join me every night this month at the stroke of midnight Chicago time as I bring you yet another classic episode of CBS Radio Mystery Theater, drawn from its catalog of 1,399 shows. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I upload a new episode of the Spooktacular, but it'll also inform you when my live stream, The Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And you'll also find out when I upload other videos, such as my first looks at tabletop games and reviews of those tabletop games too. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I'll be back tomorrow at the stroke of midnight Chicago time with CBS Radio Mystery Theater and The Vampire Plant, which aired on February 20th, 1980. And until then, pleasant dreams.